Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking a detailed look at a fascinating piece of American coinage. Coin number 1. This 1957 Roosevelt Dime with the D mint mark, especially a coin described as being in black condition and carrying a claimed market value of $197. If you have one of these old Roosevelt dimes sitting in a collection, an inherited coin box, an old jar, or even somewhere among loose change, you may be wondering whether it is simply an old silver dime worth a few dollars, or whether its particular condition, appearance, mint mark, and preservation could make it significantly more valuable. The 1957 with D Roosevelt dime is an interesting coin because it belongs to the classic 90% silver Roosevelt dime era. Roosevelt dimes dated from 1946 through 1964 were struck with a composition of 90% silver and 10% copper. The 1957D was produced at the Denver Mint, and the D mint mark identifies its place of manufacture. According to PCGS, the 1957 with D had a mintage of 354,330 pieces, making it far from a low mintage issue. The coin weighs approximately 2.50 grams, measures about 17.90 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge. Let's begin with the history of the Roosevelt dime itself. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946, following the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1945. The design was created by sculptor and engraver John R. Sinnock. The obverse features a portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt facing left, while the reverse features a torch surrounded by an olive branch and an oak branch. The inscriptions include United States of America, e pluribus unum, one dime, and the familiar Liberty and in God we trust legends. The 1957 with D example is particularly interesting because it was struck at the Denver Mint during a period when millions of silver Roosevelt dimes were being produced for everyday commerce. The D mint mark is found on the reverse, near the lower left area beside the torch design. If you are examining a 1957 Roosevelt dime and you see a small letter D in the appropriate location, you have a Denver Mint example. If there is no mint mark, you are generally looking at the Philadelphia issue. The 1957 with D Roosevelt dime had a substantial production run of more than 113 million coins. That means collectors should not automatically consider every 1957 with D rare simply because it is old. Age alone does not make a coin rare. This is one of the most important lessons for new collectors. A coin can be nearly 70 years old and still be relatively common, while another coin from the same decade can be dramatically more valuable because of rarity, condition, varieties, errors, or exceptional preservation. Now let's talk about the word black, because this is where things become especially interesting. When someone describes an old silver coin as being in black condition, they may be referring to a very dark appearance, black toning, heavy oxidation or surface discoloration, environmental exposure, or simply a coin whose surfaces appear extremely dark under normal lighting. But black coloration does not automatically increase a coin's value. One of the most important characteristics of a 1957 with D Roosevelt dime is its silver composition. Because this dime was struck before the United States changed the composition of its circulating dimes, in 1965 it contains 90% silver. That gives the coin an intrinsic precious metal component in addition to its collectible value. Current price guides can therefore change as silver prices move. USA Coinbook, for example, lists the 1957D as a 90% silver coin and provides values according to grade. But silver content is only the starting point. Collectors can pay premiums for coins that have exceptional preservation. A normal circulated coin may be worth only several dollars above its metal value, while a beautifully preserved high-grade specimen can be worth considerably more. PCGS's price guide demonstrates this wide spread for Roosevelt dimes, with higher grades commanding increasingly larger premiums. Now let's imagine you have a 1957 with D Roosevelt dime in your hand. The first thing you should do is avoid cleaning it. This is extremely important. Never take an old silver coin and polish it with household chemicals, silver polish, toothpaste, abrasive materials, or a rough cloth, simply because the coin looks dark. Cleaning can permanently alter the original surface and can make an otherwise collectible coin less desirable. Collectors value originality. If the dark appearance is natural toning and the coin has attractive original surfaces, removing that appearance could destroy some of its collectible appeal. If the dark color is actually environmental damage, cleaning may not restore the coin and can create additional problems. Either way, aggressive cleaning is usually the wrong first step. Another important factor is luster. Original mint luster can give an uncirculated silver coin a distinctive appearance when rotated under light. If the surfaces are covered by unattractive discoloration, heavy scratches, or chemical damage, the coin may lose much of the premium that collectors would otherwise pay. The black coloration therefore needs to be examined carefully. Is it even across the coin? Does it have shades of grey, blue, gold, brown, or other natural-looking transitions? Does the coloration follow the contours of the design? Does it appear stable and original, or does it look like a thick, unnatural coating? These questions matter. Natural toning can sometimes be highly attractive. Some collectors actively seek beautifully toned silver coins because of their unique appearance. But dark and beautifully toned are not automatically the same thing. The market decides based on originality, eye appeal, rarity, grade, and demand. You should also look carefully for signs of cleaning. A cleaned coin can sometimes have unnatural brightness, hairline scratches, or an overly uniform appearance. Ironically, a coin that looks shiny may actually be worth less than a naturally toned coin with a darker surface. This is why experienced collectors often prefer original surfaces. The 1957 with D Roosevelt Dime is also interesting because the Denver Mint produced a large number of examples, but high-quality survivors can still become competitive at the upper end. NGC notes that the high mintage and saving of brilliant uncirculated rolls made the issue relatively common through MS-67, while better quality control at Denver helped produce specimens with strong torch details. This distinction is especially important for online coin videos. Coin values can change, and different websites may provide very different estimates. The best approach is to use multiple reputable sources and compare the exact date, mint mark, grade, and variety. Now, let's imagine the ideal 1957 with D Roosevelt Dime for a collector. The coin would have crisp details, strong luster, attractive original surfaces, minimal marks, a sharp strike, and excellent preservation. On the reverse, the torch bands would be exceptionally clear, potentially qualifying for a full bands or full torch designation. The coin would also have attractive eye appeal without signs of harsh cleaning or environmental damage. The coin's silver content also provides a baseline. According to current reference information, the 1957 with D is composed of 90% silver and 10% copper. That intrinsic silver's content is one reason these older Roosevelt dimes remain popular even when their numismatic premium is limited. And that brings us to one final warning. Never sell a potentially valuable coin simply because someone tells you that it is just a dime. A 1957 with D Roosevelt dime may be common in circulated grades, but the highest quality examples can command significant premiums. At the same time, don't pay a huge premium simply because someone claims that an ordinary coin is rare. Next coin, number 2. This 1956 with D Roosevelt dime, featuring the D mint mark and described as being in black condition with a stated market value of approximately $199. Zeroth if you have a 1956 Roosevelt dime in your collection, an old coin jar, a family collection, or a box of inherited coins. This is definitely a coin you should examine carefully before deciding that it is just an ordinary 10-cent piece. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946, shortly after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt's portrait was placed on the obverse, while the reverse features a torch surrounded by an olive branch and an oak branch. The design was created by John R. Sinnock, and this basic design became one of the most recognizable American coin designs of the 20th century. The 1956 with D was produced during a period when the United States was still using silver in its circulating dimes. This is extremely important for collectors today. Unlike modern-clad Roosevelt dimes, the 1956 with D contains 90% silver. According to NGC, its actual silver weight is approximately 723 troy ounce. That silver content gives the coin an intrinsic value even before we consider its numismatic value. However, collectors should remember that the silver value changes as the price of silver changes. A collectible coin can be worth much more than its metal content, but a common circulated example may trade relatively close to its silver value. A coin can have the same date and mint mark as millions of other coins, and still be worth considerably more if it has extraordinary preservation or a valuable designation. In the world of Roosevelt dimes, one of the most important characteristics is the condition of the reverse torch. If you turn the coin over, you will see the famous torch in the center. Across the torch are horizontal bands. On high-quality Roosevelt dimes, these bands can be extremely sharp and complete. Collectors and grading services recognize particularly strong examples with the full bands or full torch designation. The exact terminology can vary by grading service, but the basic idea is the same. The horizontal lines across the torch bands are fully and clearly defined. This can make an enormous difference in the collectible market. This is why someone looking at a 1956 with D Roosevelt dime should never stop after identifying the date and mint mark. You need to examine the entire coin. Now let's talk about the D mint mark. The D indicates that this Roosevelt dime was produced at the Denver Mint. The mint mark appears on the reverse of the coin, near the lower portion of the design. When examining your dime, use good lighting and perhaps a magnifying glass. Make sure that the letter really is a D and not damage or another surface feature. Over time, many developed scratches, contact marks, dents, discoloration, and wear. That means that finding an exceptionally preserved survivor today can be much more difficult than the original mintage number suggests. Black coloration does not automatically mean the coin is link, also does not automatically mean the coin is valuable. There are several possibilities. The coin may have developed natural toning over many decades. Silver reacts with its environment, and old silver coins can develop a wide variety of colors and shades. Some examples can become gray, brown, blue, gold, purple, or nearly black, depending on their storage conditions and chemical exposure. Natural toning can sometimes be attractive to collectors. A professional grader will not simply look at a dark coin and say, "This is valuable because it is black." Instead, the grader will examine the surfaces, determine the coin's condition, look for damage, evaluate originality, and determine whether the coloration is acceptable or problematic. A coin with strong full bands and a high grade can be far more desirable than a similarly graded example without that designation. This is one of the reasons the 1956 with D is so interesting. NGC notes that Denver's generally sharper strikes produced a good percentage of full torch examples, even though many mint state coins accumulated small marks from their handling and storage. The country was in the middle of a rapidly changing post-war era. Consumer culture was expanding. New technologies were entering American households. Automobiles were becoming increasingly important. Television was growing rapidly, and this little silver dime was being used in everyday transactions across the country. Next, count number 3. This 1946 Roosevelt dime with no mint mark, especially an example described as being in black condition and carrying a claimed market value of approximately $214, zeroth. If you have a 1946 Roosevelt dime in an old collection, coin jar, inherited box, or simply sitting among other silver coins, you definitely want to take a closer look before deciding that it is only worth 10 cents. The first thing that makes this coin special is its date. 1946 was the first year the Roosevelt dime was produced for circulation. The coin was introduced shortly after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and it became one of the most recognizable American dime designs of the 20th century. This means the 1946 no-mint mark Roosevelt dime is not automatically rare simply because it is the first year of the series. In fact, its large mintage makes ordinary circulated examples relatively obtainable. But that is only one part of the story. The condition of the individual coin can make an enormous difference. NGC notes that many mint state examples were saved when they were new, with examples surviving through high grades, while PCGS reports that the Philadelphia issue becomes much more challenging at the very highest grades. The Roosevelt Dime was authorized and introduced in 1946 as a tribute to Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Roosevelt had died in April 1945, and because of his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II, there was strong public support for honoring him on American coinage. The dime denomination was particularly appropriate because Roosevelt had been closely associated with the March of Dimes campaign, which raised money to fight polio. The new coin featured Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse. The reverse displayed a torch in the center, surrounded by an olive branch and an oak branch. The torch represents liberty, the olive branch represents peace, and the oak branch represents strength. The designer was John R. Sinnock, whose initials appear on the coin. The Roosevelt dime design became a permanent part of American coinage and continues to be used today, although the composition and certain production details changed over the decades. The 1946 issue is therefore more than just an old dime. It represents the beginning of an entire coin series. Now let's talk about the no mint mark. Many beginning collectors see a coin without a mint mark and immediately assume that it must be rare. That is not necessarily true. For Roosevelt dimes dated 1946 amperes missing, mint mark is normal for coins produced at the Philadelphia Mint. NGC explains that from 1946 through 1964 mint marks were located just to the left of the base of the torch on the reverse. Philadelphia coins did not carry a mint mark during this period. Collectors pay close attention to the horizontal bands across the torch. On especially well-struck Roosevelt dimes, those bands can be sharply and completely defined. This can lead to the coveted full torch, or FT, designation used by NGC. The 1946 Philadelphia Roosevelt dime has an interesting situation because many examples are available in mint state, but a significant portion do not have the strongest torch details. NGC explains that Philadelphia coins from the 1940s were often somewhat weak in certain details, meaning collectors should pay attention to the quality of the strike as well as the overall grade. This is important because two coins can both be graded mint state and still have different levels of collector demand. One may have weak torch bands, another may have extremely sharp bands. One may have numerous contact marks. Another may have clean, attractive surfaces. One may have unattractive environmental discoloration. If the coin is heavily circulated and common, its market price may be influenced strongly by silver. If it is in exceptional condition, the numismatic premium can become much more important. This is another reason why you should never judge the value of an old Roosevelt dime by silver content alone. Now imagine finding this coin in an old family collection. That's an extraordinary amount of time. A coin dated 1946 is now a historical survivor from the immediate post-World War II period. The people who originally used this dime are long gone in most cases. The stores where it was spent may no longer exist. The purchasing power of 10 cents has changed dramatically. But the coin itself remains. That is why collectors treasure these pieces. They are tangible links to the past. Now, if you are searching for valuable Roosevelt dimes, the 1946 issue should definitely be on your radar. A common date in extraordinary condition can sometimes be more interesting than a supposedly rare date in heavily damaged condition. This is one of the most important principles in modern coin collecting. Now let's summarize what makes this particular coin interesting. We have a 1946 Roosevelt dime. It has no mint mark, meaning it was struck at link years from the first year of the Roosevelt dime series. The 1946 Roosevelt dime remains one of the most fascinating early coins in the Roosevelt series because it represents the beginning of a design that has remained in American coinage. For link is a small silver coin, but it carries a huge piece of American history. So keep searching, keep learning, keep examining those old coins. and never underestimate what might be hiding in an old collection. Thank you for watching. Subscribe thy channel, like this video, and good luck with your next coin discovery.